My parents said they couldn't afford to take me on vacation. Then I saw my sister's kids in first class. I didn't say a word. But a week later, they weren't smiling anymore. I've always been the other sibling. Not the golden child, not the one who gets praised at family dinners. Just there. My sister Sarah, on the other hand, was the shining star. The perfect daughter. The loving wife. The doting mother of two precious children. The one my parents always been over backward for. And I? I was Daniel, the responsible one. The one who didn't ask for much. The one who worked hard, paid his bills, and, unfortunately, always seemed to have extra money when someone in the family needed it. It started small. "Danny, could you help with the electricity bill this month?" My mom had asked once. "Your father and I are a little tight." I had just started my first real job, and I was happy to help. Then, my sister needed a little help too. "Liam needs braces, and it's just so expensive." I wouldn't ask, "But I know you're doing well," she had sighed over the phone. And so it went. Helping with bills. Covering unexpected repairs. Shipping in for my niece and nephew's school supplies. "You're so lucky, Danny," my mom would say with a smile. "You don't have all these responsibilities like Sarah does." Lucky. That's what they called it. I told myself it was fine. It's family, after all. And besides, I wasn't struggling. I had no wife, no kids, no massive expenses. But there was one thing I had always wanted. To travel. I had dreamed about it for years, saving up, looking at destinations, imagining myself exploring places I had only seen in pictures. Yet somehow, every time I got close, something came up. A family emergency. An unexpected expense. A guilt trip. So when I finally booked my dream trip to Italy, paying for every cent myself, I told no one. It was my one selfish act. Or so I thought. I was at the airport, waiting in the economy boarding line, feeling that mix of nervous excitement and exhaustion that came with international travel. Then, I heard my sister's voice. "No, Liam, put your backpack down. The seats are huge, you don't need all that stuff." I turned my head, and my breath caught in my throat. Sarah, my niece and nephew, my parents, all standing in the priority boarding line, laughing, relaxed, wearing matching vacation outfits. First class. For a second, I thought I had lost my mind. My parents, who couldn't afford a trip for me. My sister, who always claimed they were struggling. I took a slow breath. Maybe they saved up for this. Maybe it was some kind of miracle. Then I heard my mom laugh. "Oh, I still feel bad we couldn't take Danny," she said, shaking her head. "Please," Sarah snorted. "He wouldn't have fit in." Laughter. A pit formed in my stomach. I clenched my jaw, turning away as the attendant called their group for boarding. I didn't say a word. I just watched them walk into first class, completely unaware that I had seen everything. And in that moment, something inside me changed. I didn't text them. I didn't call. For the first time in my life, I let the silence sit. Normally, I was the one checking in. The one asking if they needed anything. The one making sure my parents weren't struggling. But this time, nothing. And it felt good. My trip to Italy was everything I had dreamed of. Walking through ancient streets, drinking espresso at tiny cafes, standing in front of the Colosseum, knowing I had made this happen for myself. I should have been happy. And I was. But at night, when I sat on my hotel balcony, watching the city lights flicker, I kept replaying that moment at the airport. He wouldn't have fit in. The words echoed in my head, scratching at something deep inside me. It wasn't even about the money. Not really. It was the realization that my family never saw me as one of them. They had been laughing at me. I wasn't their priority. I wasn't even an afterthought. I landed back home a week later, and that's when the call started. First, it was my mom. "Hey, sweetheart. How was your trip?" Her voice was overly cheerful, like she was trying too hard. "It was great," I said flatly. "Oh, good, good. Listen, your dad and I were wondering if you could help us out this month. Just a little extra for groceries. You know how things are." I let the silence stretch between us. Then, I laughed. It wasn't planned. It just slipped out, sharp and bitter. "Groceries?" I repeated. "You mean like the ones you bought on your way back from first class?" Silence. Then, a nervous chuckle. "Danny, that was different. We had some airline miles saved up, and Sarah found a great deal." "Don't," I cut her off. "Just, don't." "Sweetheart, it's not what you think. We would have taken you if we could, eh? But you could," I snapped. "You just didn't want to." More silence. I could almost hear her scrambling for something to say. "We didn't think you'd mind." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "You didn't think I'd mind?" I repeated slowly. No apology. No guilt. Just a casual admission that they never even considered me. That was the moment I decided. No more bills. No more helping out. No more being the forgotten son who just existed to make their lives easier. 2 days later, my sister called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What do you want, Sarah? I said instead of hello. Oh, so now you're too good to answer your own family, she snapped. I smirked. First class must have really spoiled you. Oh my God, Danny, are you seriously mad about that? Grow up. I'm growing up, I said. That's why I'm done taking care of you. A pause. Then, the voice she always used when she wanted something. Soft. Sweet. Manipulative. Danny, come on. You know how hard things are for us. You don't have kids. You don't have real expenses. It's different for you. Right? I said. And yet, I still paid for Liam's soccer fees last month. Well, yeah, because you always do, she said, like it was obvious. Like it was my job. Not anymore, I said simply. Another pause. Then she laughed. Oh my God, she scoffed. You're actually serious. Wow, you were such a selfish little. Click. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. The silence didn't last long. By the next morning, my phone was flooded with missed calls and messages. First, my mom. Mom, Daniel, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is not okay. We're family. Families help each other. Call me back. Then, my dad. Dad, son, don't be dramatic. You know your sister and the kids need your help. Just be reasonable. Then, Sarah. Sarah, are you actually ignoring mom and dad? Wow, you really think you're better than us now? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I got up, made myself a coffee, and sat on my couch in complete silence. Silence I hadn't had in years without someone asking me for something. It felt amazing. But by noon, the guilt-tripping turned into outright panic. Another call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, my phone buzzed with a text. Mom, Danny, please. We have a problem. I rolled my eyes. Another problem. Another crisis I was supposed to fix. Then, another text. Mom, it's about the house. That got my attention. I sighed, debating whether to ignore it. But some stupid, nagging part of me still cared. So I called. What now? I asked the moment she picked up. She sighed dramatically. Daniel, your father, and I didn't want to worry you, but things have been tight. And, well, we're behind on the mortgage. I pinched the bridge of my nose. And you're just telling me this now? We didn't want to bother you, she insisted. But now, well, we need your help. Help? I scoffed. You mean you want me to pay it? It's just this month, she rushed to say. Just to keep us afloat until things settle. Huh, I said, leaning back. Kind of funny that you could afford first-class tickets, but not your mortgage. Silence. Then, a sigh. It wasn't like that, Danny. It was exactly like that. I cut her off. You didn't think twice about spending money on Sarah's kids, but when it comes to your own son, suddenly, there's nothing left. That's not fair, she snapped. You don't understand what it's like to raise children, to have real responsibilities. You're right, I don't, I said coldly. Because instead of having my own life, I was too busy taking care of yours. Silence. Then, finally, in a much softer voice. Danny, we need you. And that was the truth. They needed me. Not because they loved me. Not because they valued me. But because without me, their entire house of cards came crashing down. I know, I said. But you're going to have to figure it out without me. Then I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel guilty at all. The aftermath. The next few days were eerily quiet. No texts. No calls. No sudden guilt trips. For the first time in years, I was completely free. But I knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, on the third day, my sister showed up at my apartment. I heard the knocking before I even looked at my phone. Sarah, open the door. I took my time getting up. I wasn't in a hurry to deal with her. When I finally opened it, Sarah barged in without waiting for an invitation. What is wrong with you? She hissed, slamming her purse onto my kitchen counter. Excuse me. I raised an eyebrow. You know exactly what I'm talking about, she snapped. Mom is losing her mind. Dad is freaking out. And now I'm stuck dealing with all of it because you decided to have a tantrum. I crossed my arms. You mean you're finally dealing with it? For once. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, don't be so dramatic. You know well that they need help. You're just punishing them because you're jealous. Jealous? I repeated, laughing in disbelief. Yes, Danny. This is about the trip, isn't it? You're mad because we didn't invite you, and now you're throwing a fit. I shook my head. You really don't get it, do you? Sarah scoffed. Oh, please. Enlighten me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. It's not about the trip, Sarah, I said. It's about the fact that for years, I've been the one making sure this family stays afloat. I've covered bills, helped with your kids, paid for emergencies, while you and Mom and Dad acted like I didn't exist unless you needed money. She crossed her arms. That's not true, isn't it? I asked. When was the last time Mom called me just to check in? Or Dad asked how I was doing? The only time my phone rings is when one of you needs something. And I let it happen because I thought that's what family does. But then I saw you all, sitting in first class, laughing about how I wouldn't fit in. Her face paled. I had her. So no, I continued. This isn't about the trip. This is about me realizing, for the first time, that I was never part of this family. I was just your safety net. And I'm done being that. Sarah's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. For the first time, she had no comeback. Finally, she grabbed her purse. Fine, she said stiffly. Do whatever you want. But don't come crawling back when you realize what a mistake you've made. I smiled. Don't worry, I said. I won't. She slammed the door on her way out. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. After Sarah's dramatic exit, I braced myself for the next round. My parents weren't the type to let things go easily, and I knew they'd try something soon. Sure enough, the next day, my phone lit up with a message from my dad. Dad, Daniel, come over for dinner Sunday. We need to talk. I almost laughed. We need to talk was family code for we need you to do something for us, and you're going to say yes. I had fallen for it so many times before. Not this time. Me, I'm busy. A minute later, my phone rang. I sighed, answering only out of curiosity. What? Daniel, my dad started, his voice firm but trying to sound reasonable. Enough is enough. You're acting childish. Am I? I said, leaning back on my couch. Because from where I'm sitting, I'm the only one acting like an adult. A pause. Then he sighed. Son, you're making this harder than it needs to be. We're family. Families don't abandon each other. Abandon? I repeated. You mean like how you abandoned me at the airport? Another pause. That's not fair, he said finally. We didn't mean anything by that. Maybe not, I said. But you did not mean it either. Silence. Then, the shift. Look, your mother is very upset. She's been crying over this. She just wants things to go back to normal. There it was. The guilt trip. So do I said. But normal means me being treated like a walking wallet. And I'm done with that. That's not what this is about. Then why are you calling me now, Dad? I cut him off. Why didn't you call just to check in last week? Or the week before? Why is it only when you need money? Silence. A longer one this time. Then, with a sigh, my dad finally said, I don't know what you want from us, Daniel. Nothing, I said. That's the whole point. And then I hung up. The next phase, desperation. For the next few days, I waited for something else. Another call, another text, maybe even another unwanted visitor. But nothing came. It was too quiet. Then, one evening, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Sarah, I hope you're happy. Mom and Dad are in trouble because of you. I rolled my eyes. Me, they'll manage. Sarah, no, actually they won't. They're 2 months behind on their mortgage, and the bank is already sending notices. But I guess that doesn't matter to you, does it? Me, it didn't matter when you were buying first-class tickets. Sarah, oh my God, let it go. That was one time. Me, yeah? And it was the one time I saw the truth. She didn't respond after that. The next morning, my mom called again. This time, I answered. Danny, she sniffled. We're in trouble. So I've heard. The bank, they're threatening foreclosure. I stayed quiet, waiting. I know things have been tense, she continued, her voice shaking. But we're your parents. Please, just help us this one last time. Oh, one last time. The exact phrase they had used the first time they ever asked me for money. No, I said simply. Danny. No, I repeated. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Silence. Then, the shift, from sadness to anger. You're being selfish, she snapped. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Done for me, I repeated, laughing bitterly. Mom, name one thing. One single thing you've done for me in the last 5 years that didn't involve asking for money. Nothing. Not a word. And that was my final answer. Good luck, Mom, I said and hung up. When the smiles finally faded. A week passed. Then 2. Then, finally, I heard the news. Sarah had caved. She had dipped into her savings to help our parents, something she had never done before, not when she had me to do it. She had been forced to cover their mortgage, their utilities, and even some of the credit card debt that had been piling up for months. And it wasn't going well. I found out through a mutual friend that Sarah and her husband had started fighting about money. Apparently, he hadn't even known how much my parents relied on me, and now that she was on the hook, it was straining their finances too. Their perfect little life? Cracking. Their easy smiles? Fading. And my parents? They were finally learning what it meant to struggle without their safety net. Without me. And I had never felt lighter. The silence from my family stretched for weeks. I had expected more calls, more guilt trips, maybe even another unexpected visit. But after Sarah's last bitter message, everything just stopped. I wasn't naive enough to think it was over. They weren't speaking to me because they were too busy struggling. And I was finally, blissfully free. A life without them. For the first time in years, my paycheck belonged to me. I didn't have to send chunks of it to my parents for their bills. I didn't have to cover Sarah's kids' school expenses. I didn't have to budget around what they needed. I started doing things I had always put off. I redecorated my apartment, bought new furniture, even got that high-end espresso machine I had been eyeing for months. I took another trip, this time to Japan, a place I had dreamed of visiting since I was a teenager. And for once, I lived guilt-free. No nagging texts. No emergencies. No shame for spending my own money on myself. It was like stepping into a new life. One where I wasn't just a source of income to the people who were supposed to love me. Then came the collapse. One night, I was scrolling through social media when I saw it. A tag post from one of Sarah's friends. It was a photo of my sister and her husband at dinner, but something was off. The caption read, "Tough times don't last, but tough people do. Hang in there, Sarah." Sarah's smile was forced. Her husband, Mark, looked exhausted. They both looked like they had aged in just a few weeks. Curious, I clicked through to Sarah's page. Her usual flood of happy family photos had dried up. No beach trips, no lavish birthday parties for the kids, no bragging about her perfect life. Just silence. I raised an eyebrow. Then, I got a message from an unexpected source. "Kelly, Sarah's friend. Hey, Danny. I don't know if I should be reaching out, but I thought you should know. Things are bad at home for them." I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. "Me? Why are you telling me this?" "Kelly, because I know how much you did for them. And now that you've stopped, well, it's all falling apart." A few minutes later, another text came through, this time with a screenshot. It was from a private group chat Sarah was in with some of her closest friends. And I saw exactly what my sister had been saying about me. "Sarah, Danny is such a fool. He's just sitting there, watching us suffer, like we deserve this. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. Sarah, I had to drain MY savings just to keep mom and dad afloat. And guess what? They're still drowning. We can't keep doing this, and Mark is pissed. He says this is all their fault for relying on Danny in the first place. Sarah, I swear to God, if Danny doesn't come crawling back soon, I don't know what we're gonna do." I laughed out loud. Crawling back? She still thought I was the one who needed them. A call I didn't expect. A week later, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hello, Danny." I stiffened. It was my dad. I hadn't heard his voice in over a month. "What do you want?" I asked flatly. He sighed heavily. "Son, listen, we need to talk." "We really don't." "Daniel," he said, his voice dropping into that familiar, condescending tone. "Enough is enough. You've made your point. But we're your parents, and this is getting ridiculous." I smirked. "What's ridiculous?" "You abandoning your family over a stupid vacation," he snapped. And there it was. Even after everything, he still didn't get it. "This isn't about the vacation," I said, my patience wearing thin. "This is about the years I spent sacrificing for a family that never once appreciated it." "That's not true," he said quickly. "We always appreciated you." "Then why was I never invited?" I cut him off. Silence. I could hear him breathing, hear the weight of the question settle into his chest. But he wouldn't admit it. "Look," he said instead. "We can fix this. Your mother and I." "Fix what, Dad?" I interrupted again. "The fact that I finally have boundaries? The fact that you can't manipulate me anymore? Because that's not fixing anything. That's just going back to the way it was." Silence again. Then, finally, a sharp exhale. "Sarah's struggling, Danny. She needs help." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Oh, so now Sarah needs me? She's drowning. Mark's talking about selling the house. The kids don't understand what's happening. Not my problem. Daniel, be reasonable." "I am," I said calmly. "For the first time in my life, I'm being completely reasonable." A long silence. Then, my father's voice turned cold. "So that's it? You're just walking away. You walked away first, I reminded him. At the airport. Remember? More silence. Then, finally, a bitter clipped. Fine. And he hung up. The final goodbye. That was the last time I ever heard from my father. I expected another round of begging from my mother, but it never came. Sarah? She stopped messaging me completely. A month later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Sarah and Mark had sold their house and moved into a smaller one. My parents had downsized too, forced to let go of the life they had been so comfortable in for so long. They had spent years pretending they were better than me, that they didn't need me. And now? They had finally learned what life without me actually felt like. And I was free, not just from the financial burden, but from them. I didn't owe them my success. I didn't owe them my money. And I didn't owe them my forgiveness. So I took a deep breath, blocked their numbers, and never looked back. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself. And it felt incredible.